postgraduate degree and doctoral program in different disciplines. JRU is the only private university in the state of Jharkhand accredited for women. We regularly organize national, international seminar conferences at our university. And we are associated with IAR, and we have a very good opportunity and nice experience with them. I am very happy that in spite of COVID-19 pandemic, each department in our university organize webinar, workshop, and quiz for our students. And we, the faculty member and the research scholar, are very much research oriented and involved in writing the research paper. But we must publish a paper in good quality journal so that our paper will be cited across the world and we will be globally recognized. So towards this step, we have organized this online faculty development program, and I am sure that all of us will be benefited from today's session. Once again, welcome you all. Now I hand over to Dr. Tanjeem Rahman from Indian Education and Researcher Association to continue the session and introduce our resource person, Professor Anirudh. Thank you, ma'am.
I would request everyone to kindly mute their mics, please. Kindly mute your mics, please. Yeah, very rightly said, ma'am. And I would like to congratulate each one of you to have taken this opportunity to attend this FDP unit even during this time of lockdown. So, you know, this itself shows that all the participants that out here are really serious about their career development, and they're really working towards developing their writing skills for writing good research paper and then getting it published in reputed journals like journals of Springer and Elsevier. Again, I, on behalf of IARA and Jharkhand Rai University, congratulate each one of you for taking this step of attending this FDP. Now, before we formally start off with the FDP, I would like to introduce you all to IARA. Well, I'll briefly share a PPT through which you will get to know what IARA is all about. IARA, that is Indian Academician and Researchers Association, it is basically an educational and scientific research organization of academician, research scholars, and practitioners. We share information about research activities, projects, conferences to our members. We also offer an excellent opportunity for networking with other members and exchange knowledge. We also take immense pride in our offerings to undergraduate and graduate students. Students are provided with opportunities to develop and clarify their research interests and skills as a part of their preparation to become faculty members and researchers. If you want to know further details about IARA, you can visit www.iaraedu.com. Now I would like to share that we have 3 journals which are high impact factor journals. These journals are International Journal of Advanced and Innovative Research, International Journal for Research in Management and Social Science, International Journal of Research in Science and Technology. We also offer membership, and one can become a member of IARA and avail attractive benefits up to ₹30,000. So this is what a certificate of a fellow member looks like. This is how a certificate of life member looks like. And this is how a certificate of member looks like. We are also very pleased to share that we have organized the first International Dissertation and Doctoral Thesis Award in September 2020. We are also very happy to share that IARA, along with Imperial Publishing House, are publishing books, and we have published about 100 books till date. I'll quickly show you a glimpse of few of the books that have been published by IARA along with Imperial Publishing House. These are the glimpses of books that we have published. We also help people to publish edited books, as well as if they want to turn their thesis into a book, we also help them in that. These are the quick glimpses of the book that have been published by IAI. Okay. Now I would like to introduce you to the resource person for today's FDP, Professor Anirudh Ghosh. Mr. Anirudh Ghosh is a PGDP in Finance, NCFM in Capital Markets, CFA Level 2 and UGC Net. He is also a certified R programmer, professional in descriptive, predictive analytics, a practitioner course from Indian Institute of Technology, that is IIT Kanpur. He is currently working as an assistant professor in finance and analytics with IMS Ghaziabad University Courses campus. He has an experience of more than 16 years in both corporate and academic. He has worked in industries like banking and logistics, and then became an academician to pursue his passion. He has also written research articles and published them in many reputed journals, which include 9 international and 3 national journals. He has also taken up consultancy projects from industry of domestic and international recruitment. His main forte is in finance, analytics, statistics, and econometrics. His key interests are in the areas of corporate finance, security analysis and portfolio management, credit risk management, investment strategies, market research, data analytics, and financial modeling. He has also been invited in numerous occasions as a resource person in many reputed institutions for various technology sharing programs in the field of finance and research. Some of the institutions are Dayal Singh College, Delhi University, Ankirti Medical College and Hospital, Lucknow, IMS Law College, Noida, to name a few. He regularly conducts workshops and FDPs on various topics of his interest and on various other research topics. Now I would like to hand over the session to Professor Anirudh. Anirudh sir, you can carry on with your FDP now. Over to you, Professor.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, favorite guests. And today our topic is how to write and publish a paper in Springer and Elsevier journals. Takeaway of 4 key takes today's FDP. First of all, how to write a good paper. Second, how to get good journal articles free of cost. Next, third is how to publish.
Lot of disturbance.
Please unmute participants.
Requesting all of you to kindly mute your mics, please.
Admin, can you mute everybody's mic?
Now is everyone able to see the presentation? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, visible, sir. Carry on, sir.
Okay, great. Today's agenda is to understand that how to write a good paper and to publish it in Springer and Elsevier journals. So the key takeaways in today's program will be how to write a good paper, number 1. Number 2, how to get good articles, good journal articles free of cost. Third is how to publish your work free of cost in good journals. And last but not the least, selecting the best journal for your research work and getting your reference done quickly without any error. So I have divided my whole presentation into 3 parts. First, in the first part, we will learn how to write a good research paper. Next, in part B, we will understand how to get our work published in a good journal. And in part C, we will understand that how to do referencing in a fast and error-free manner. So starting off with part A. In part A, first we will understand the various types of research paper, the flow and design, how to write an introduction, how to do a systematic review of literature. Next, how to set up your hypothesis. Next, how to write hypothesis in research, followed by research methodology. Next, selecting the correct tools. And when I call about the correct tools, it means the software tools and the statistical tools. Next, putting the findings in a right manner, writing an appropriate conclusion, and lastly, referencing. So
Please
while talking
mute
about
the microphones.
sorry, somebody is asking something. Please put your mics on mute mode, please, all of you.
Mr. Adnan, are you saying something?
Mr. Adnan,
Yeah,
Mr.
please
Thomas.
mute the microphones, please, because there is this disturbance.
Anil, what I am doing is I am muting
yourself,
all.
please,
You just
mute
unmute
microphone.
yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when we talk about the types of research paper,
Anirudh, you just unmute yourself. Yeah. Oh, yeah, unmute করব নোৱাৰি।
It's not even
now there are
interesting. तो आज सुबह
types
मैंने देखा तो
of-
I just started. They're telling me some.
Savita ma'am, Anuradha ma'am, please on mute mode, please.
All of you kindly mute your microphones, please.
Now, when we talk about the various types of research papers, there are mainly 4 types. One is bibliographic studies. When we talk about bibliographic studies, it is like contemporary literature review papers only, but with some software applications. Like, for example, class studying techniques is also done in a literature review. Next, analytics is also imbibed in a literature review process. So this is what bibliographic study is all about. Next, when you talk about theory building and validation studies, we talk about primary research, where we follow a grounded theory approach. This is one of the approaches which is followed in primary research when no theory beforehand is established. For example, let me give you an example of disruptive innovation. So disruptive innovation was not coined earlier than 2000, correct? So before 2000, if a researcher wants to study something called disruptive innovation in marketing, now one has to set up the definition of disruptive innovation. So for that, we call an approach called expert opinion. So we go to the field, we collect the opinions of various experts who are currently working who were working currently in the field of disruptive innovation, and then try to construct a theory out of it. And this kind of research papers are coming up. First, a theory is established. Then after the theory gets established, somebody is annotating on my screen. Please don't do that. So once the particular theory gets established, then a questionnaire is prepared. And after the questionnaire gets prepared, then we go for the particular data analysis, empirical analysis, and for the validation of that particular research over a period of time. Next, another type of research paper which we commonly see is the empirical studies, which is based on secondary research. Now, when we talk about secondary research, mostly the data is collected from a particular database. Mostly financial studies or economic studies can be considered as secondary research. Similarly, nowadays marketing studies are also getting from the secondary research databases. Like Factiva is one of the database where we can collect data, especially of and write a very good paper of secondary research and empirical skills. And last but not the least, when we talk about meta-analysis papers, in meta-analysis papers, generally the work of last 30 to 35 years is generally put on a single, you can say, index or a single paper. So mostly roughly the references amount to 300 to 400 in a meta-analysis paper. So these are the 4 types of broad category of paper which one has to look for or target. Now, when we talk about our academic world, there is a concept called paper, and another concept is known as PhD thesis. Now, thesis is a very different ball game where you need to submit your work within a span of 5 to 7 years. Whereas paper, you want to get it published as early as possible. And the amount of a length of a paper, especially in management discipline, ranges between 10 to 22 pages, if I consider as a very quality work. Now, while writing a paper, one should understand the total body of a paper. Now, in a normal paper, the body is defined into various categories. The first portion is known as abstract. Abstract is the summarized version of a paper. And in a paper, generally the size of the abstract ranges between 200 to 300 words. And in some cases, in many conferences or any symposiums, sometimes the extended abstract is also demanded from the authors. The particular word limit of those particular abstract will range between 600 to 1500 words. But in case of a PhD thesis, it will range between 1 to 3 pages, depending on the minimum 1 to 3 pages, depending on the topic of study. Similarly, the abstract also varies from journal to journal. Say, for example, in case of Elsevier, the particular the abstract limit is between 150 to 250 words. But whereas in case of Emerald, it is much more structured. Structured means first in 50 words, you need to define the purpose of your study. Next, in 50 words, you need to define the methodology. Next, in 50 words, you need to also highlight the findings of the study, and so on. Similarly, the other part where your paper starts is known as introduction, the particular theoretical foundation of the paper. Generally, the theoretical foundation of the paper is expressed in 3 major paragraphs. Okay. In the first paragraph, please note it down. Whomsoever is a pursuing PhD student or a research scholar, they should take a note of it. That in the first paragraph, you should always mention your topic and mention the novelty of your topic. That why you have chosen this topic for your research. Correct. Who are supporting this particular topic or theme? You should mention at least 4 to 5 authors who are strongly mentioning that particular novelty or the gap. After you have defined that, then you should also consider the critics of that particular problem as well. Now, when we talk about critics, it means that you are not only considering the problem, but other areas related to the problem as well. Let me give you an example. For example, if I am writing a paper, say on bankruptcy prediction, correct? Now, first I will tell that why there is a need to predict bankruptcy in order to prevent the companies from getting into liquidation. Second, in order to, because RBI has also mandated that we must always prevent any company for going into liquidation, because there will be a loss to several stakeholders and especially the banks. So that's why we have given now I have given a very strong reason that why the prediction should be done for a particular industry or a particular group of companies. In the next paragraph, I will also say that bankruptcy not only depends on the particular debt level of the firm, but also bankruptcy may be related to you can say misleading corporate governance and misleading, you can say, financial statements. Now, once I say this, then I have to also support this particular statement some author's name, that who are the authors who are saying that corporate governance also plays a very major role in bankruptcy. So this becomes your second paragraph. Now, in the third paragraph, you need to say about the flow of the paper. Now, when I talk about the flow of the paper means after introduction, which are the sections you are talking about. Now, in any good paper, I will show you right now an example as well, a few minutes after. Then you will see that each and the third paragraph will talk about that after the introduction.
अच्छा है ना? Kindly mute your mics, please.
And last but not the least, we will end up with the conclusion. So that is how a paper looks like. And in case of PhD thesis, at least your introduction should be of 3 to 5 pages. But again, it varies from university to university, institutions to institutions, and also as per the call of the guide. Because your guide is the only yardstick in your PhD thesis. He or she, whatever instructs, you have to take that thing into consideration. If he tells that your introduction should be at least of 5 to 10 pages, then definitely you have to write 5 to 10 pages. There is no other alternative to it. Next comes review of literature and hypothesis. After you have written the introduction, then you have to start for writing the review of literature. Generally, review of literature talks about the past studies. Now, when we talk about the past studies, then you have to start with a theoretical foundation. Now, what can be a theoretical foundation? Say, for example, marketing. When did the terminology marketing erupt? Then after a period of time, the marketing changed into viral marketing. Then after viral marketing, the particular marketing concept changed into social media marketing. And now you will be slowly engulfing into the theme which conduct research. Say, for example, you want to measure distance or the particular segments in social networks. Now again, you have cited the social network was done by so then after that, in the modern day, some persons define the particular social media networking as this, and they have found these results that the social media is divided as per gender, as per the choice, the like of chat, and etc. etc. And the length of such kind of literature review in a normal paper will be around 2,500 to 3,000 words. And in case of a PhD thesis, at least there should be 3 chapters in the from literature review. For example, in my thesis, I have written 3 chapters on review of literature. One is on determinants of bankruptcy, another is on the particular laws related to bankruptcy, and last but not the least, the relationship between bankruptcy and firm performance. Correct. Now, when we talk about research methodology, the research methodology in a literature review paper is completely different as compared to a literature review in PhD thesis. Because in a paper, the paper can be a literature review or a conceptual paper, or it can be an empirical paper. If it is a literature review paper, I will walk through that what are the particular, in what particular fashion you need to design your research methodology. And if it is an empirical paper, in what way you have to write your research design and sampling design. Whereas in a PhD thesis, again, as per your objectives and hypotheses are described, you have to select the particular type of research design and sampling design. Now, after research methodology, you need to discuss the findings and discussion. In case of a normal paper, you have to keep the word limit till 1500 to 2500, excluding key figures and tables. Now, in this point, I like to add something more into it, that whenever you prepare table, always remember that in source, if you are taking it from somewhere else, so for example, if you're copying a particular table from some website, then give the name of that website that I have taken from this source, or I have copied this table from this particular research paper. And at the same time, if you are getting output from any software, then also you have to customize your table in your own way. You cannot just copy and paste the output from SPSS or R directly into a research paper. you have to particularly customize it, synchronize it, and then put it into your research paper. But yes, in case of figures and graphs, definitely you can do a copy paste. Correct. Whereas in a PhD thesis, definitely the findings and discussions run into n number of pages. Forward our finding and discussion, then there comes now conclusion in not only the key findings but also first the implications. When I talk implications, means applications of my research. So for example, in my thesis I have written that what are the various applications of this bankruptcy prediction in various particular companies, various academic, to the government, how will we and how it will help for the economy as a whole and society as a whole. So while writing the implications or applications, you have to write three kinds of implications at least. One is managerial level implication, another is academic level implication, and third is societal level implication. Correct?
Odd sem ka third, fifth, seventh sem ka result analysis.
Next, you need to also mention the limitations of your research. Limitations, see, in a paper you cannot cover everything, because in a thesis you can cover extensively because it is for a longer horizon of time. But in a paper you can subtly cover, say, one industry or one particular sector, say retail sector. And in retail also you are only focusing on the organized retail sector. You are not focusing on the unorganized retail sector. So in your study, you have to say, if you're writing a marketing paper and you have written on the topic, say, organized e-retailing, then you have to also say that in the gap that, okay, we have done this study, but still the unorganized e-retail sector has also to be tapped. So this is the gap for future research. Okay. It is compulsory for every journal. Next comes the disclosure statement. Now, these disclosure statement nowadays are followed mostly in pharmaceutical research. Why this is so? Because sometimes the person who is writing that paper or thesis works in an organization like Cipla or Ranbaxy. Now, if he is writing a paper on the, say, drug discovery or writing a formula, then he has to put his disclosure statement also that it is in the interest of academic research. It is not for any profit making, or it is thing is for, you can computer science studies also, because if you are developing a software or developing certain machine learning algorithms in that.
Yeah.
Now you have to also mention this particular disclosure statement as well. Most of the good journals are now accepting this disclosure statement as well, so that after later on you cannot claim that particular journal that I want money because you are publishing my paper, you are making money from my paper. Next is funding information. If your research is funded by your university or any other particular agency, then obviously you need to mention that. For thesis also it is compulsory nowadays. Next, this data availability disclosures. Now good journals are also wanting your original Excel sheets or CSV.CSV files, or your SAV.SAV files, or your R files or Stata files, to ensure that whether the analysis is true and the disclosures which you have made in the particular paper are accurate. And it is not only compulsory for paper, and slowly Indian universities are also adopting the same culture. And last but not the least, that is ORCID ID. Now, what does the ORCID ID is also necessary, because whomsoever is the first author for the paper, they need to disclose their ORCID ID as well. Actually, ORCID stands for Open Researcher and Contributors ID. So this is a very specific unique ID which will be helpful. I will talk about this later on in my discussion, that how this ID will be helpful in submitting your or research paper in free journals, correct, and getting it published. So this ID all of you need to create today only. And last but not the least, in thesis also sometimes is nowadays required, because to support your thesis as per UGC guidelines and as per guidelines of certain top-notch institutions of our country, you need to publish at least 2 papers of in scope nowadays, and those 2 papers should be a part of a chapter of your thesis. So in order to validate that whether you have published the paper yourself, which you have mentioned in the thesis, through your ORCID ID, they can track that whether that paper belongs to the chapter of the thesis or not. So moving ahead, now once we know the flow and design of a paper or a thesis, now the next thing one should understand that what kind of review of literature actually we are preparing. And always remember that we should always start from the review of literature itself. Correct. We should not start from the introduction part. Introduction and abstract, we will always write at the end. Now, what is the logic behind that? Why I am telling that? Because the abstract is the summarized version of your whole paper. So you cannot write abstract in the beginning. So this is a myth which you need to remove from your head. Correct. And set this from today, that abstract you will always write at the end of the paper. Number 1. Number 2, introduction. Why you cannot write introduction in the first place? Because until and unless you give the valid reasons, or until and unless you get the findings, how will you critique your paper? You cannot critique your paper. So the second paragraph will only generate if you complete your literature review and complete your findings and analysis. So that is why my advice to all of you will be write the introduction at the end. And after writing the first draft of introduction, you need to check again and again that what is the flow of word, how you are connecting the sentences. Correct. So these are very, very vital points which you need to remember while writing your introduction. So the first thing is bibliometric review. Generally, in a bibliometric review paper, the word limit ranges between 3,000 to 3,500 words. That is a theoretical review combined with software analysis. Next, in a normal research paper, inclusive of empirical work, the literature review should range between 1,000 to 2,500 words. In a PhD thesis, at least, as I said earlier, that at least your literature review should contain 3 chapters and at least 3 papers should be getting published out of it. If you can validate your literature review with 3 solid publications, mind you, no particular panelist, at least Indian panelist, will challenge your work or challenge your construct or questioning, because this has been already approved by other particular journal reviewers. So the minimum length of these 3 chapters altogether should be minimum 15,000 to 30,000 words. Correct. And last but not the least, in case of a literature review of a meta-analysis, the length of the literature review should be between 5,000 7,500 words. Now, where you can get some good quality papers. Now, except the first one, this is an open source. After that, everything is paid. Correct. You need to subscribe for it. Now, I will try to show you that how you can search papers free of cost. This is the first takeaway for the day. Let me just share my screen. I'm typing in. It's a hands-on exercise. I hope everybody is able to view me. I'm logging on to scholar.google.co.in. Now in scholar.co.in, go to the corner and click on these 3 horizontal bars. You will see my profile, my library, alerts, metrics. Go to advanced search. Now once you go to advanced search, say I'm writing a term called bankruptcy and distress. And I want articles between 2016 to 2020. And now I am entering the search button. Now see, all these papers are available to me. Even I am getting links from elsewhere as well. And once you click on this PDF, see, these papers are fully downloadable. See, these papers are fully downloadable free of cost. See the latest version, bankruptcy law and banking financing. I have got the paper. Correct. So your problem of getting quality research journal papers will be 90% solved. Yes, not why I'm talking 90%, 10% still you need to access those particular databases, but 90% of the papers you can get through using this kind of filters. So I'm again going back to my presentation. So this was a hands-on exercise through which we have seen that how we can get the free papers. How can we download free papers from Google Scholars? I have shown it here also in my slide. I hope it is visible to everyone. Yes, no, can't say.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So you can apply any of the keywords. Now let me go one by one. Say for example, if I have written bankruptcy and distress in the first particular filter, then every paper having the bankruptcy and the distress words could have come. Now with exact phrase, if I write bankruptcy as an exact phrase, that only those papers who are having the term bankruptcy will be returned back to me. And if any of the words, say bankruptcy, firm distress or firm performance, so whomsoever word is there, they will give me the results. So there is as you have seen that the result has come like this. And after clicking on the PDF, we get the full paper. Now, as I told you, I will not go again. I will not repeat the same things again. That introduction should be written after the initial full draft is complete. And abstract, as I have said earlier, that it is to be written at last. Methodology is the soul of the paper. Let me show you that how to write the research methodology in a literature review paper. And remember that the research methodology will come after the introduction. In a particular literature review paper, after introduction, your research methodology should come. And how you should write the research methodology? Let us see. This is how you need to do it. See, at stage 1, I am just collecting papers, correct? Now, once I am collecting papers, today I will show you that how you can filter papers from journal as well. So in this case, I have filtered papers from EBSCO, JSTOR, Emerald, ResearchGate, and Science Direct. Correct. And this is the number of papers which I have collected. Next, I have collected in total 136 papers which are of my use, and I have excluded say 56 papers due to some reasons. Those reasons also I have stated. And after that, finally, I have continued my study with total 80 papers. Which 80 papers is I have written that some studies were related to firm performance, some related to bankruptcy, some were related to the empirical studies, and some were related to the bankruptcy policies. So once I am done with that, once you are done with that, you should also prepare inserts chart and tables wherever necessary. Wherever you feel like that you should insert a table. For example, if you want to make clusters country-wise, that how many studies has been done, you can put that in a literature review paper. Similarly, theme-based number of studies. Say, for example, in my case, that some studies were related to corporate governance, that how many studies has been related, associated with bankruptcy with corporate governance. Similarly, how many studies has been related to firm performance? How many studies have been related to stock market? How many studies have been related to the manufacturing sector? So this way you can bifurcate the studies. And last but not the least, as I said, in conclusion, you should start with the key findings, followed by the highlighting the key gaps in a literature review paper. Since there is no empirical thing, correct? So you should always mention the key gaps, that what are the gaps which are currently existing in the current literature, and scope for future research. And last but not the least, how can these gaps be useful to the industry practitioners, society, and the academic fraternity? And lastly, followed up by references. So this slide I have already shown. Now, in case of an empirical paper, in empirical paper, the structure is a bit different. First, you will start up with abstract, then after that introduction, next the structure of literature review and hypothesis, then findings and discussion, then conclusion and reference. And after review of literature only, then the research methodology comes. After there is a typing error, I think. After the review of literature, the research methodology will come. So now, what are the rules for defining a hypothesis? Many a time I have seen in most of the theses, people include null hypothesis also and alternate hypothesis also. Correct. Always remember that your null hypothesis should include this particular 5 words or five words, that is equality, independence, no relationship, insignificance. Should include inequality, no independence, just opposite terms, relationship, significance, and direction. You will not find it in any book, but yes, definitely this is one particular ready reference, ready reckoner for you. So how to define your hypothesis. And in any research paper or in PhD thesis, you should always use your alternate hypothesis. You should not use your null hypothesis, correct? Because as a researcher, we always try to prove the alternate hypothesis. Yes, results may be different. Results may be different. Results can come that yes, you are accepting your null hypothesis, correct? Then you can give your own conclusion that way. But in a research paper or a thesis, you should only mention your alternative hypothesis. That will be sufficient. Next, I have also given a ready reference, though I will not discuss in detail because we have planned another webinar for this particular hypothesis testing. So this ready reference is, firstly, what does hypothesis means? Hypothesis means an assumption, whether that assumption is true or false. Now, there are certain tests. There are actually 3 kinds of tests in hypothesis. To be bifurcating in a larger category, there are only 2. In fact, one is parametric, another is non-parametric. And in parametric also, there are 2 things. One, when population standard deviation is known, and when population standard deviation is not known. And it also depends on another parameter called sample size. So assuming that our current scenario is having a normal distribution, and if the sample size is greater than 30, we call it as a large sample. If the sample size is less than equal to 30, we call it as a smaller sample, right? And if the population is known, or population standard deviation is known or not known, irrespective of the fact, we follow Z test. But in case where the population SD is known and the sample size is small, we follow the Z test. Whereas in case of this particular small sample and when population standard deviation is not known, we follow t-test. And see, we are using the same formula. There is no change in the formula, x bar minus mu divided by standard error. The only difference is when we do not have any information about the population standard deviation, we are using the sample standard deviation. That's it. That is what you need to remember. I have also given a small case study to make you understand. Now please unmute yourself, all of you. Please unmute yourself because you need to answer one of my questions right now. A researcher selects 25 students randomly and wants to claim that the mean height of the students is 165 centimeters. Is the claim true? Now, the hypothesis which I have written is the mean height of the student is equal to 165 centimeters, and the alternative hypothesis is the mean height of the students is not equal to 165 centimeters. If I go back to my previous slide, see how I have defined hypothesis. Null hypothesis is including the word called equality, and alternative hypothesis is including the word called inequality. Now, if we move ahead, see the mean height of the students is equal to 165 centimeters, and here the mean height of the students is not equal to 165 centimeters. Now tell me which test we should adopt. Z-test or t-test? Yes, please tell whether it is Z or T. Please unmute yourself.
Z-test.
Z-test. Why Z-test?
On the sample size is less than 25, less than 30.
Less than 30. Okay.
And the standard deviation is not.
Let's see the table. My sample size is 25, which is less than 30. And the population standard deviation is not known, which you have said very correctly.
Sorry,
So we
t-test.
will select what? Z-test or T-test? T-test.
Yes.
Right?
Nirud, you can see the chat box. A lot of people have answered that it's t-test in the
Okay.
chat box.
Okay. No issues. Those who have just, I am validating their answer, ma'am. I really appreciate those who have done it correctly.
Right.
Now, I have also made another ready reference for ANOVA and ANCOVA. Now, analysis, ANOVA stands for analysis of variance, and whereas if you put a C between AN and OVA, it becomes ANCOVA. Actually, it means analysis of covariance. So there are three things which one should know in order to determine that whether they should be following ANOVA or ANCOVA. First is whether they have any dependent variable or not. Correct? Next, if they have a dependent variable, it should be normally distributed first of all, and second, it should be continuous in nature. Number two, how many independent variables are there and what is the nature of the independent variable? The nature of the independent variable, if you want to conduct ANOVA, should be categorical in nature. Okay. And last is covariate. Now, what is the definition of a covariate? A covariate is also an independent variable which has a direct or indirect relationship with the dependent variable. I am repeating again. Covariate is a independent variable which is having a direct or indirect relationship with the dependent variable. Now, in case of one-way ANOVA, only there is one independent variable which is continuous in nature. Again, the number of independent variables is 1 and there is no role of covariate. Correct? For example, I have given the dependent variable as test score. That is the marks of students in examination. Now, my research question is that whether the marks of students depends on the level of education or not. Correct? Is there any significant relationship between marks and level of education or not? This is my research question. So as a researcher, if I observe that what is the level of education, there are 3 levels of education. One is high school, UG and PG. And we all know that in case of high school students, the ability to score more marks, the ability to score marks is much more than that of a UG and a PG student. Because generally, as the level increases, level of education increases, the scoring also decreases. Correct. So this is only a theory, but in order to prove, you need to collect data and you need to validate it. Similarly, in 2 ANOVA, number of dependent variables is 1 only. But if the number of independent variables rises to 2, from 1 it changes to 2, that is 2 independent variables with categories. So for example, in my example, I have taken dependent variable as stress, and the independent variables, I have taken 2 independent variables. One is gender and another is level of employees. So in gender, there are 2 categories, male and female, and in level of employees, it is senior manager, middle level managers and junior level managers. Now, if I construct a hypothesis or construct a research question, say that stress is evident more in male than that of females. Now, as per literature, we know that female are more stressed than that of male in Indian society. Why? Because they not only have to take care of their workplace, but also they have to take care of their personal, you can say, home affairs as well. So that's why the stress level is more in females as compared to males. And similarly, we can also arise another research question, that whether stress level varies among the level of employees as well. And we see that middle level managers or junior managers feel very much stressed as compared to senior managers. Why? Because they are inexperienced and they don't have that particular ability to handle certain problems. So that's why in most of the companies we see that junior managers are facing more stress. Now, another research question also we can form, that whether there is an interaction effect or not. That, okay, level of employees, junior managers, but whether they are female or male. Junior level managers, they are facing stress, but who are facing more stress, male or female? So that this question answer can also be given through ANOVA. Similarly, in case of N-way ANOVA, the number of categorical variables will increase, right? But I will prefer everyone or suggest everyone that not to use more than 4 groups. 4 groups से ज़्यादा आप लोग इस्तेमाल मत कीजिए. Don't use more than 4 groups. Correct? Because if you increase more than 4 groups, then the interpretation becomes very difficult. So we'll have a talk on these topics on a separate session. Now talking about ANCOVA. ANCOVA also the same thing, but here the role of covariate plays a major role. For example, again I have given one example, that sales is influenced by the type of salesman, that is senior manager, junior sales manager, or the area sales manager. And there is a covariate which can have a direct or indirect relationship, that is advertising budget. Correct? Similarly, in case of a 2-way ANCOVA, here the number of covariate increases from 1 to 2. So in previous case, what we have seen, that in case of ANOVA, only there will be a change in number of independent variables. Whereas in case of ANCOVA, what will be the change? The change will be in the level of number of covariates. Now, in 2-way ANCOVA, if the number of dependent variables, say for example, is remaining same, that sales of Amazon is influenced by firstly the time of customer visit, and another is access of e-commerce, which is again influenced by the amount spent on promotional activities and the amount spent on visual merchandising. So these type of research questions you can easily frame and you can conduct your research, because nowadays these researches are very much common. Now I have given again another case study. Now I'm reading out the case for you, that a farmer wants to know which fertilizer is best for his parsley plants. So he tries different fertilizers on different plants and waits these plants after 6 weeks. The dataset consists of the following. I have not taken any raw dataset. I have taken a hypothetical dataset, and from this you need to give me an answer that weight of the plants in grams when fertilizer was not used. Next, weight of the plants in grams when biological fertilizer was used. Weight of the plants in grams where chemical fertilizer was used. So please tell me that which is the dependent variable here? Which is the dependent variable here?
Weight of the plants.
Very good, weight of the plants. And what is the independent variable here?
The type of fertilizer that is used.
Okay, the type of fertilizer. Not fertilizer, Naved Ahmed, it is a type of fertilizer. Correct. And each type of fertilizer. Now here you need to code it in your particular software that one is when no fertilizer was used. Number 2, if the biological fertilizer was used. And number 3, when the chemical fertilizer was used. Correct. So how many dependent and how many independent variables are there? How many dependent and how many independent variables are there? No, Ashish Jatav, it's incorrect. Piyush Ranjan, incorrect. It is one dependent variable and one independent variable. Correct. One DV and very good. Very good, Dr. Syed, Sandra Lopez, everyone. Because here the dependent variable is weight of the plant. See, in all these three things, I am weighting the weight of the parsley plants. Correct. Whereas independent variable is type of fertilizer, which has categories in it. Which has categories in it. Correct. So I have only one independent variable with me, that is the type of fertilizer. Correct. And there will be two hypotheses which we need to satisfy. One is there is an equal variance in weight among the different fertilizer usage, and second, the mean weight of the plants under each fertilizer category is either equal or unequal. And definitely we know that mainly if you use chemical fertilizer, then the weight of the plants will generally differ. Now selecting the correct tools. Now here when we talk about the correct tools, there are two types of tools. One is the software tools, another is the statistical tools. Now when we talk about software tools, especially for statistical analysis, MS Excel, Python and R should be used because these are open source softwares. Whereas many of us use IBM SPSS and Amos plugin as a pirated software, or it is licensed through our institutes. SAS, it is a very expensive software. It is used both in academics as well as in industry. Stata, eViews and other softwares are also there. These eViews, again, you need to purchase the license. Stata, again, you need to purchase the license. For text and geographical data, you can use Atlas and NVivo for text analytics. You can also use text analytics and both geographical data analysis with R and Python. But specifically for using geographical data analysis, you have to use ArcGIS, Geoda or QGIS for geographical data analysis. Next, for visualization, for smart visualizations, you can use Power BI, Tableau, Qlik, R, Python, and MS Excel as well for visualization. Next, when we talk about statistical tools on the basis of number of variables, then we talk about univariate statistics. Now, when univariate means when there is only one variable. If you are using only one variable, then you can use mean, median, mode, frequency, standard deviations, skewness, kurtosis, one sample test of hypothesis. And obviously, when I'm talking about only one variable, I'm talking about one continuous variable. Correct. Then only you can calculate these statistics. Now, certain applications MBA. MBA stands for market basket analysis. This is a very new type of analysis where I will give one example. Say for example, I went to small mall and I have purchased a T-shirt, but along with that T-shirt, I have purchased a pair of jeans also. Now taking another particular customer also into study. Now what is the probability that if that person purchases a T-shirt, what is the probability that he will also purchase a jeans? So for that particular type of analysis, we require market basket analysis. Next is RFM. This is another very important analysis in marketing, which is known as recency, frequency, and monetary analysis. Recency means how recent I have visited the retail store. Next, frequency means what is the frequency in which I have purchased the items. So for example, daily, if I order milk and bread and butter frequently on a big on milk basket, then definitely a message comes from the milk basket in your mobile phone that if you purchase this much amount of bread, then they will be offering you 10% discount. So this kind of messages are generally a result of this RFM analysis. And last, M stands for monetary analysis. There are other analysis also like trend analysis, life cycle analysis, brand survival analysis. So this can also be taken into consideration through univariate statistics. Next, in finance, you can also perform revenue analysis. Next, you can also provide revenue analysis, dividend analysis, cost benefit analysis. CBA stands for cost benefit analysis. HR also you can also go for average turnover, average business per employee, average absenteeism, etc. Now somebody has asked me to explain design of experiments. Sir, design of experiments will be beyond the scope of this particular FDP because it will take a whole day to make people understand first about variables, the basics of research methodology, and then I can carry forward my discussion to design of experiments. And the design can be Latin square design and many designs are there. So we will keep this topic for another webinar. I request you, sir. I think Professor Deepak has requested me. So I will be excusing from this particular topic right now. Now next is bivariate statistics. In bivariate statistics, generally the number of variables is 2 or the number of factors is 2. And then we can apply correlation, regression, 2 independent sample tests. Say for example, association of brands, we can test. We can also do comparison between performance of 2 multiple brands. So for example, the mileage of Maruti Suzuki Alto versus the mileage between Hyundai i10 or i20. So this kind of comparison tests also we can do. In finance, those who are studying in finance, you can also do a pre and post analysis for the success of IPOs, that whether the market capitalization of the company has increased or decreased post IPO issue. So this kind of studies you can do. And similarly in HR, some can also study the association between digital leadership and psychological well-being by taking some predefined scales of some others and modulating it. So there can be a number of studies. And about the multivariate statistics, you can apply any sort of test, any sort of statistical test on multivariate objects, right? So in multiple variables, you can apply multiple correlation, regression, machine learning models. In marketing, it has a very wide application like factor analysis you can perform. You can also do structural equation modeling, path analysis, cluster analysis, machine learning models you can apply. In finance also, you can do prediction modeling, simulation, forecasting studies. In HR, churn analysis generally refers to the employee turnover, and you need to also give a prediction model that whether any new employee who is recruited in the organization will leave the organization after a period of say 2 years or 3 years. And last but not the least, mediation analysis. In mediation analysis, what happens is, say the role of experience in the churn ratio. So if the experience is less for an employee, then the chances of churning that employee are very high. But if the employee is much more experienced, so that particular employee will be very much stable in the organization, and the churn rate will be also very low. Correct. So these sort of, you can say, advanced kind of analysis are nowadays very applicable. So you can try them out. Now the most interesting part, getting your paper published. So there are two journals for discussion in today's particular FDP program. One is the journals in Springer, and another is the journals for Elsevier. Now this is a link which I have given in my presenter, that is journalsuggester.springer.com, and another is journalfinder.elsevier.com. Correct. Now first I will show you the Springer one. I'm clicking on this link. Now in Springer, once you open this particular link, you will see this particular page where you need to add your manuscript title, your manuscript text, subject area. For example, I am currently writing a paper on a hybrid application of TAM and UTAT models. This is my paper. And in manuscript, I have not given the whole manuscript, but I have given the extended abstract of my particular paper. And I have selected the area called business management. Now, once I have given this particular details in this particular fields, like manuscript title, manuscript text, and subject area, there are certain other fields also you can manipulate, like minimum impact factor you want, minimum acceptance rate. So I'm not going into that right now. And once I click on this button, that is suggest journals, I'm putting my cursor right now on this button, suggest journals. Once I click on it, I will see that these are the journals which are recommended to me. Now let us understand what is this. First is impact factor. Now what is impact factor? Impact factor is generally based on Web of Science data. Second thing is that impact factor is calculated on 2-year basis. 2-year basis means, okay, for example, I want to calculate the impact factor of 2020. I repeat, 2020. Now what will I do? I will see that what is the number of citations which has been done in this particular journal, that is Information Systems and E-Business Management, for the year 2018 to 20, correct? Divided by total number of items which are published in that particular Scopus index in the Web of Science between 2018 to 20. So once I calculate this ratio comes to 1.621. Now you should not concentrate on firstly the impact factor so much. Yes, if the impact factor is high, definitely the journal quality is very good, but you should also concentrate on the acceptance rate. Always remember that if the acceptance rate is low, then definitely that particular journal is very good. And you are seeing that the first decision is coming in 42 days. So it is taking about more than a month, about 1.5 months it is taking. Similarly, if you talk about the information system frontiers, it is, see, the impact factor is higher. More the impact factor, the greater will be the number of days for your first decision. And the acceptance rate is also quite good, that is 16%. Similarly, there is another particular journal which is Electronic Commerce Research, which has an impact factor of 1.94. The first decision is coming within I think 48 days, and the acceptance rate is 13%. So now if I select, say, one journal called Electronic Commerce Research and I click on this particular arrow button, then we will see that this is the information about your issue a special, excuse me, please can you mute your mic, whomsoever is talking. So you can definitely contact say in this case, you can contact the editor-in-chief, J. Christopher Westland at westland@uic.edu, and you can request him that if they can uh, allow their journal to be published at your conference. So this will be an added advertising campaign for your conference as well. So you can also go for this kind of initiatives. Again, if you click on the link of the elsewhere, then definitely you will see this is the first page. It is almost similar to Springer here, where you need to put your paper title, then your paper abstract, then your keywords, and there is one more thing, that is the field of research. So once you enter these particular fields, then just scroll down. Then see, I have given my again paper reference here, the same thing. Priyanka ma'am, yes, a book publisher, you need to contact Dr. Tazin for that, right? Right now I am presenting that how to find a journal. So in banking app adoption and customer satisfaction analysis, this is my paper. I have given the title in the title particular paper title box. Then after that paper abstract, and I have given some keywords as well, like mobile banking adoption, and TAM and UTAT. Then after that, I have also given the field of research like business management, accounting. I have also broadened my area by giving social science. Now after that, here comes the major trick. Now you are seeing there are two buttons. One is the yellow button, another is the gray button. It is now you can customize your search. That is what these last four diagrams. These last four diagrams are also very important, where see the time to first decision. You can customize. The maximum time is 52 weeks. You can reduce it to 1 week or 2 weeks, and you can find those journals as well. Similarly, most of the PhD scholars will be willing to publish the journals in a short span of time. So here you need to reduce the particular amount of time to say 1 or 2 weeks. So you can also customize that and press on a particular button called Find Journals. So once you press on Find Journals, then this is the output screen which you will receive. It is giving all the name of those journals which can be published during 12 weeks. And these are some of the name of the, this is the screenshot which I have taken from my output. Correct. Now there are certain terms which you should know. One is impact factor or journal impact factor. The higher rate of the impact factor, this will be for your particular PhD thesis. It will be a good way to improve your index as well. Now, H index is also calculated on generally for a period of 5 to 3 years. Correct. Depending on what type of H index you want to do. It is generally for an individual or a group of faculty members, or for the institution or at a university level. Next is citation score. Citation score is generally based on Scopus, and it takes 3 years data. As I have explained, impact factor is for 2 years. Cite score is for 3 years, and that only takes the citations from the Scopus. It doesn't take any citation from Web of Science. Correct. Whereas impact factor takes the citations from Web of Science. Whereas Scimago journal rank actually ranks the journal according to the subject, according to the country, according to the type of particular article which is published. So you can go to scimagojr.com. I will just share my screen once again. You can go to this particular website called Skimago journal country and rank. You can type it in Google and you can see the ranking of the management journals. You can select your area of study, whether it be arts, humanities, business management, accounting, and you can see the ranking of each of the journals in your subject or in your category. Correct? So I'm going back to my PPT. Now there are another two things. One is article influence score, and last but not the least, ORCID ID. Now article influence score means that whenever an article gets published, it gets published on the basis of the references you quote in that particular article. So for example, if I'm writing a paper on bankruptcy and most of the journals are from Journal of Finance, that means my article influence score will go skyrocket, right? Similarly, if somebody is doing a particular study on astrophysics and they are quoting it from Nature and Nature, then definitely their article influence score will go high. And last but not the least, ORCID ID. This I have told everyone that the full form of ORCID is Open Researchers and Contributors ID. With this ID, you can definitely publish your paper free of cost in any Springer and Elsevier journals. How to do that? Let us understand. First, you create your ORCID ID. Do not go for Springer or Elsevier. I repeat, do not go log into your Springer or Elsevier. Go to that particular journal site. Let me give you an example. For example, you want to publish your paper in Journal of Retailing and Consumer Services, right? So the first step is, please note it down. First step is you build your ORCID ID. Then go directly to this journal's website. And then download one paper from this Journal of Retailing and Consumer Services. I have already shown you, illustrated you that how to download a paper from journal, correct? So download one paper and see the style of writing. Once you see the style of writing, adopt that style in your paper. This is the first tip I am giving you. Second tip, whomsoever is the editor in the journal, I repeat, whomsoever is the editor in the journal, try to implement his or her name in the reference section as well, and in between the literature body. So that will also ensure that you are very seriously done a recent literature review from these particular journals also. And then you submit your paper in this particular journal. Once you submit your paper, definitely within weeks time, you will see that your paper has got accepted with some minor corrections. This is the way of publishing your paper free of cost. But yes, there will be some charges if you want to make your paper open access. If you want to make your particular paper open access, then definitely you have to pay some charges, and that charges will be high. Otherwise, you don't need to pay a single money from your wallet. Instead, believe me, Springer and Elsevier will pay you, because this journal is associated with Elsevier as well. If you get your research paper published in A quality or A star quality journal, believe me, they will pay you instead. And that sum of money will be ranging in between 50,000 to at least 6 lakh as well. I repeat. And this is not a hoax. Now let me again go back to my presentation.
सर ये सर्टिफिकेट आना है ना
Achha,
Right.
2-3 more things I wanted to discuss. Let me just wrap these things up quickly. Okay. Another thing what you should understand is the grammar and spelling. If it is a US journal, you can use the particular spelling ANALYZD. You can use Z frequently. But if it is a UK journal, mind you, you cannot use ZD. You have to use AC. Correct. Another thing is that you should always use conjunctions and interlinking words between paragraphs to connect your previous sentences with the other. For example, furthermore, in continuation to the above, in iteration to the above, in addition to. So these words you should use while writing your literature review or joining any sentences. If you create any gap, that is the point of rejection. Correct. Good journals will always reject your paper on the basis of these grammatical mistakes. You don't need to use any bombastic words. Once again, I have seen many times that many of the researchers use a strong vocabulary. There is no need of using the strong vocabulary. And the fallacy is they use the same vocabulary again and again. If they are using the same vocabulary again and again, that will be a mishap for the whole paper. Because nobody likes repetition. Now, last but not the least, here I have given one link where there is call of papers. So you can start writing your paper from going to this link directly. For marketing people especially, this is one call of papers from elsewhere. You can directly go to this particular website, Marketing and Consumer Research in Family Business, and you can start writing a paper. Now, next part is referencing. This is also very important. Now, one should understand that what is the difference between referencing, in-text citation, footnotes, and bibliography. Now, referencing means when you are referring a published journal article in your work, that is referencing. Now, what is in-text citation? Whatever content you are taking from that particular published journal article, you need to put it in a very short, brief, in your own words, along with the author in an abbreviated format. Say, for example, if I have written a paper on using a hybrid model of TAM and UTAT, TAM was actually developed by Davis. Now, along with Davis, there are many authors. Now, I have to write in the text that Davis et al. 1976, and then I could have quoted his particular model. Next, footnotes. Footnotes actually are not a part of your research paper. Footnotes generally belongs to a definition or a particular explanation of your text which you are using in the research paper. For example, somebody does not know the meaning of viral marketing. So either instead of increasing the length of your particular research paper, you want to put it in the footnotes that what is the definition. But remember, footnotes are not to be given in each and every journal because some journals do not allow to write you footnotes. And last part is bibliography. What is bibliography? Bibliography means that whenever you are consulting any source, you have to mention that source in your work. It can be an article, it can be a journal article, it can be a newspaper article, it can be from the internet, it can be somebody's video recording, anything. So all these materials which you have taken, especially in a thesis, we do all these things, then we call it as bibliography. And lastly, how to do this particular citation or referencing? Let us have a hands-on experience. Before we go to the hands-on experience, let us understand which of the journals are asking for which kind of referencing. Elsewhere, Emerald, Taylor and Francis are all using APA 7 style. But yes, some Elsevier journals also follow MLS style as well. JSTOR and Wiley definitely follows MLS style. Very few journals follow Harvard and Chicago style. Correct. So let's have a hands-on experience. Now, once you have downloaded a paper or downloaded these links, go to this particular double inverted comma, go to this particular double inverted comma and click on it. Once you click on it, see the particular referencing page has been opened, right? The first type of referencing is MLA, next APA, Chicago, Harvard, Vancouver, and you have got a lot of references ready-made and without having any error. Without having any error, you can directly copy them and paste it in your article. Correct. Without having any mistake, you can definitely paste it in your article. Now I will show you one article. This is a literature review paper which I am showing to all of you, where it is of accounting and finance, determinants and consequences of financial distress, review of empirical literature. It is written by these authors. Now see, if you look at this abstract, it will not be more than 200 to 300 words, correct? Now they have written some keywords, and JL classification stands for Journal of Economic Literature, and this G00 G30 means the topic on which they are talking about, correct? So for example, M41 stands for corporate governance, M42 stands for financial reporting. So this is how the topics has been classified. Now look at this introduction. It starts with the purpose of this paper was to synthesize the vast body of empirical literature on the determinants and consequences of firm financial distress. This is what is interesting. In the first 2 lines or 3 lines, it is describing the topic. Look at the topic. Determinants and consequences of financial distress. The same line almost is iterated in the first 2 sentences. The purpose of this paper was to synthesize the vast body of empirical literature on the determinants and consequences of the firm-specific financial distress. Now, once they have written this first paragraph, they have quoted someone's work that we are following Altman and Hotchkiss's theory. Similarly, they are continuing with their particular work, and again they are quoting some authors like Schweizer, Neyes, Brower, Halbin. This is in-text citation. I repeat, this is in-text citation. See, they have not given the full references, but they have only given 1 or 2 authors' name along with the year of publication. Correct. And see how they are connecting this particular study. Finally, we review the consequences of financial distress categorized into financial reporting, auditing, consequences. So they have divided it into paragraphs. And see the connection. Although, this is one word. Stakeholders, therefore. So that means something related to stakeholder has been already mentioned in this particular paragraph. And then again, he is repeating that stakeholders therefore need to know the potential indicators of impending distress. So this is how you need to build up the connection between the paragraphs. See, writing paper or writing thesis is just like driving a car. Whatever I tell you, if you do not practice it or don't start writing it, I don't think so that you will be able to successfully write a paper until and unless you jump into it. Yes, obviously you can ask help from me, you can ask help from your guide, you can ask help from your colleagues, but at the same time you have to write. You have to write something and write yourself. Definitely, it is not like copy and paste. Now I'm open for question and answer session. Yes, sure. My number and email ID is shared in the particular PPT as well, but still I'm sharing it in the chat. Can we take now question and answers, please?
Yeah.
Yes, let me just go through the questions. Okay, Dr. Syed Asadullah Hussaini is asking me that at your comfortable time, please do let us know something about plagiarism before submitting the paper. You can, sir, go for Turnitin, and you can go and you can see that what is the percentage of plagiarism in your paper. Generally, B category journals accept at the rate of 10% minimum, but for A and A star, you need to do some more hard work. At least the plagiarism content should be below 5%. Correct. Next, I will take up now questions. Let me check.
Reena Sharma is asking, Anirudh. She is asking, can we copy statistical data in our research paper?
Copy statistical data in our research paper?
Yeah.
Ma'am, it depends that what kind. Say, for example, in factor analysis, the Cronbach alpha should be greater than 0.70, as stated by Hare et al. 2013 in its book Multivariate Analysis. Right. So in this case, you can copy that particular reference and quote that authors also have got a similar kind of Cronbach alpha greater than 0.786, which is your result. But you cannot directly copy someone's result. Yes, if you are doing a literature review study, then definitely you can show it in that table, some statistics. For example, in my paper in bankruptcy studies, one chapter was written on bankruptcy models, correct? Now, what is the average accuracy of the models? How can I calculate that? I can only calculate that if I have the statistics of other research papers. Say, for example, in Altman MDA model, I have got the accuracy rate was approximately 95% to 86%, correct? Similarly, in other Metron's distance to default model, the accuracy was 96 to 97%. But in machine learning models, the accuracy drastically improved to 98 to 99%. In that case, I have to use the other person's statistics, and at the same time, I need to quote that which author is saying about that particular statistic. Okay, so for that you can copy, but you cannot copy in an empirical paper. You can just refer that particular author's name. Yes, other questions? Other questions, please. Sometimes name and addresses are shown in plagiarism. What should we do? N. Kumar has asked me this question. See, in case of plagiarism, you can go for a software. It is an open source software called Quillbot. Okay, you can note this name down, Quillbot, quillbot.com. And if you are facing this plagiarism issue, if you are purchasing this particular, subscribing this online software platform, you can paste your paragraphs and you can paraphrase it online, correct? Okay, there are some more questions, and let me scroll down. Free plagiarism software, please, Dr. Syed, do not go for any free plagiarism software. That will only mislead you. It will be great if you go for Turnitin. That is the only good one. Pathan Rijwan Rajak. Please, sir, tell us how to create Orchid ID. Okay, just type Orchid in Google. You will find the particular link, correct, of Clarivariate Analytics, correct. In Clarivariate Analytics, it will ask you just like जैसे Gmail में आप account create करते हो ना, just as you create your account in Gmail, it will ask you certain questions, your name, your affiliation, your institutional email ID, and your Orchid ID will get created. Okay. Okay. Next, then one more question was there. Sir, how can we submit project? Submit project. Can you please clarify something that what is the we are talking about project? How can we submit project? Is it paper or project? Which one? Apart from Turnitin, sir, Turnitin is the best, and that is recommended all over industry as well as academics. So I will prefer only it, not any other brand, because even if you do it and if the report comes to you, what if the dissertation committee rejects it? Then your total paper will get wasted, right? What is the time taken for a paper acceptance? Generally, Aranya, it depends on the quality of the journal. If you are talking about a A-star journal or a journal, the number of papers which are accepted by those journals are quite high, right? And in order to review, they review word by word, sentence by sentence, and even if you put something comma or a full stop in a wrong place, they will identify. So it will take some amount of time. At least you can expect 6 months, right, for a good journal of A category or A star. For B, it takes a less amount of time. Approximately, you can say 1 or 2 months. And they, in case of C category journals, I'm talking about ABC from ABDC list of journals only. In C quality journals, it will take around say 3 weeks or 1 month. How to cite a paper which is in PDF format? No issues. Copy that title, paste it in Google, and click on that double inverted comma, and you will get the particular site, correct? Which is in PDF format. You can download that PDF also. Next, please let me know about proceeding paper. Is it worth or not? It is not worth. Neha Songara, I will like to say that do not go for proceeding paper, because maybe that paper can be accepted or rejected. So you don't know. So finally, your work will not get evaluated or cited if you are quoting conference or proceeding paper. Always go for journal articles. That will be my recommendation to you. How to increase our citation? Dr. S. Satish. Best part is that if you are writing with your colleague, write 2 papers always, correct, and do not describe all things in one paper. Try to make 2 papers out of 1 paper. So for example, if I am writing this TAM and UTAT model, in first of the papers, I will only take into account, say, age, gender, and experience into account. But in my second paper, I will not only take age and experience, but also purchasing pattern, correct? In that case, I will get 2 papers out of 1 paper. Similarly, I also quote my paper reference to the second paper. But one more thing, if some of your research scholars, Dr. S. Satish, I'm answering your question. If some of research scholars are working on the same particular topic, you can ask them, give section of your paper, number 1. Number 2, you can always replicate your work in a new dimension. For example, after TAM, UTAT, you can go for another model as well. A new model having the same background of your paper with some additional things. So that way you can increase your citation. That is one trick I am giving you. Okay, Dr. P.K. Buhin is asking me that can you tell something about SCI and Scopus? Sir, that will be currently, see, about SCI and Scopus. SCI stands for Schemago actually. SCI, I have told it in my slide also. SCI generally provides the ranking of a journal according to the subject, according to the country, or according to the context. Whereas Scopus gives us the visibility through site scope, that how much citation has been done for a journal. Correct. But the only thing is that you should not get confused with SI terms or Scopus terms. You should look at the impact factor first of all. And if you want to take a ready reference, you should go for the ABDC list of journals, because ABDC list of journals is such a list where it is across Scopus, it is across SCI, it is across Web of Science, it is across UGC care list. Correct. Next, again, Ashish Jatav, I think I have answered your question, how to create ORCID ID. Next, Dr. Deepa Gupta, below 5% including references for A-grade journals. Yes, ma'am, definitely. Ritushri Narayan, Turnitin is paid or some open source. It is paid, ma'am. Next, if we conduct plagiarism check on Turnitin, does it stores data or can check data be deleted from Turnitin? It depends whether you are using a Turnitin access of your own or in an institutional access. Say, for example, if you are submitting your assignment or submitting your paper in university and then checking it, then definitely it will store that particular data. But if you are just having a login and just checking the plagiarism report, then definitely it will not store data. Correct. Next, Priyo Das, in t-test or z-test, do we have to find SD from the responses? Yes, definitely you have to find the SD from the responses, because see, in one sample test, because there is a difference of samples also. This we will talk vividly, Priyo Das, in one of my upcoming webinars very soon. Remember one thing, if you are doing hypothesis test, first thing you should be clear about that whether that sample is taken from one population, one sample from one population, or two samples from same population, or two different samples from two different populations. This thing should be clear. So I will take a separate session for that, or you can contact on my personal window if you want a clarity. Right now, I cannot cover these things in just oral discussion. Next, from
I think we can take another one question, Anirudh.
Yes, no issues.
One more question.
What is the difference between Scopus?
Yeah, most questions are repeated.
This is again, if someone is elsewhere, will he have some preferences, benefits in polishing research papers? If someone is elsewhere, I don't get your question, Ashok Singh Rathar. Can you be very specific?
Syed Zafar, Mr. Syed Zafar is asking, can you suggest free plagiarism software that check the whole paper?
See, free plagiarism softwares always have a loophole. I will not recommend that. You can go to UGC's website. They have their particular own software of checking plagiarism, but that is not reliable. I'm sorry, that is not reliable. If your thesis gets rejected at the final stage, then you will be getting into problem. It's best that you go, you get a access of IIM Lucknow or IIM Ahmedabad or any other good institute and get your thesis checked.
Yeah, I think with this we'll end the FDP. The responses that we are getting, it itself shows that how interested people are in this FDP And obviously we'll plan future FDPs in this area, because we are getting a lot of queries. I'm getting WhatsApp messages also that they really found this FDP very fruitful, and they want FDPs on certain other topics like hypothesis testing and all. So definitely in the near future, we'll try to incorporate more FDPs on various topics related to research. Thank you, Professor.
Dr. Manoj,
Session. Yeah.
one more question I would like to answer of Dr. Manoj. No page limit is required, sir. You can upload an article up to any page limit, but yes, you should also follow the guidelines. Say, for example, no unnecessary images or tables should be inserted in a particular paper. That should be uploaded separately.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Anirudh. This has been a very, very enlightening session. I am sure most of us have gained a lot of knowledge from this FDP, and definitely we are going to work on more research papers. As an academician also, it is our responsibility to do good research. So definitely you have definitely helped us a lot in understanding a lot of nuances in writing a good research paper and getting it published in a reputed journal, journals of Springer and
sorry to interrupt you, Tazin ma'am. Just one more thing I would like to say to all the audience, that after this session tomorrow I'll be going through your chat. Whichever questions which I have not answered, I will try to, you can say, write those answers and hand it over to Dr. Tazin to revert you back with the answers, right?
Definitely.
So
definitely
don't
we
worry,
can do that.
I will answer all your questions and I will revert back to you.
Anirudh, can you just stop the share screen so that I can request everyone to turn on their videos so that we can have a group photo?
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Arvind, I hope you are ready to take a group photo.
The print screen will do.
Yes, great. This is what we call as a virtual group photo. Nice.
And I will like to
do we have Piyush
convey my
Ranjan sir with
thanks
us?
to
Shraddha ma'am,
I
do we
would
have
like to
Piyush
convey
Ranjan
my
sir?
thanks to Rai University and IARA for conducting this, giving me an opportunity to speak. Hope all of you have enjoyed my session, and
Yes, they
and
definitely
probably
have.
whatever help in whatever form you need, you can drop me a mail. I will get back to you.
Yeah. Shraddha ma'am, do you have Piyush Ranjan sir with us? Ma'am, your mic is muted. Kindly unmute it. Shraddha ma'am, your mic is mute. Yeah. Do we have Piyush Ranjan sir with us, ma'am?
No, we have Piyush Ranjan with us.
We have, no? Okay, ma'am. So it was a wonderful session, and I am 101% sure that all of us have gained a lot of knowledge from today's session. Special thanks to Jharkhand Rai University for giving us this opportunity to organize this FDP. And special thanks to Dr. Piyush Ranjan sir and Dr. Shraddha ma'am. Thank you from IRA to both of you from our bottom of our heart. Now I'd like to request the registrar of Jharkhand Rai University Ranchi, Dr. Piyush Ranjan sir, to say a few words. Kindly, sir, a few words from you. Piyush Ranjan sir, am I audible?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I will just check. He is online.
I think his mic is muted.
From your side, it is also required because I'm also unable to unmute myself.
No. From my end, I have already given the permission.
Okay.
You just have to click on the mic button.
Okay, 1 second. I try. Yeah,
There is some technical issue, I believe.
yeah, technical issue.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'd now like to request Shraddha ma'am to kindly deliver the vote of thanks. Shraddha ma'am. Hello. Dr. Shraddha. Dr. Shraddha. Yeah, ma'am. Okay. Ma'am, I think she's talking to Piyush Ranjan sir.
Hello.
Feedback form will be shared on the WhatsApp group. So kindly fill up the feedback form and submit it. And certificates you all will receive latest by 3rd or 4th of June. E-certificates will be provided to all the participants. Yes, Shraddha ma'am.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, now, ma'am, Piyush sir is also saying that from your side, and I also find difficulty in unmuting myself. The signal is coming that from your side it is unmuted. So please check.
Okay, ma'am. Let me check again.
Problem is from your side also. We want to unmute,
let me check, ma'am.
And I am also trying from, but it was not unmuted.
Okay,
Some
okay,
technical,
okay.
Some technical problem.
Now,
we are unmuting Piyush Ranjan sir.
Yeah.
Sir? Sir?
Yeah, now it's unmuted. Now it's
Yes,
unmuted.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now it's unmuted.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So thank you so much for your kind support in organizing this FDP. And now I would like to request you to kindly say a few words, sir.
No, first I would like to thank IARA for giving us the opportunity to conduct this wonderful session. And thanks to Anirudh also for conducting such a informative session, which undoubtedly I'm sure all the participants must have enlightened and is useful to all of them, not only to write a paper, but to publish a paper. And also he has covered beautifully the fundamentals of the research methodology also in the entire session. I just appreciate Anirudh for doing so much in this 1 hour of the session. Fine, which is really the credit goes to Anirudh for doing for giving so much of information in just compiling it in a 1 hour of session. Because I can see all the participants.
The credit goes to the audience who are very much
from the research
patiently
from the writing paper to the publishing. But the way the Anirudh has conducted this session is really commendable. Fine. I hope and look forward to conduct such sessions also in near future. I hope, Anirudh, you are in and hopefully will conduct few more sessions in the time to come.
No issues. Anytime.
And it has been rightly said that the objective of this session is still not meet, because the objective of the session will only meet once the participant will start writing and start publishing their paper. Fine, which has been rightly said by Anirudh. It is just like driving a car. You have to practice it. Fine, just by going through a 1 hour of the session or 2 hour of a session will not do much, bring much difference. But once you start doing it and once you start practicing it, then only you can able to write a paper and publish your paper in a good journal. Fine. Thank you once again to Anirudh and IARA for organizing this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Your words really mean a lot to us. Thank you so much, sir. And Anirudh very rightly pointed out that the credit goes to the audience also, the participants also, that so much could be delivered in such a short span of time. The audience has been grateful, and my again thanks to each and every participant too for being such a wonderful audience. Now I would like to request Dr. Shraddha to kindly deliver the vote of thanks, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really a very wonderful session. Professor Anirudh Ghosh has discussed writing the paper and taking care of different aspects while writing, like abstract, literature review, research methodology, references, etc. He has also discussed on various tools and also informed the participant about the A-grade journal, A-star journal. So this actually the session was really very wonderful and informative as well as interactive. So now it is my proud privilege to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of Jharkhand Rai University. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Savita Sengar, Madam, Vice Chancellor, who continue to inspire us to come with zeal and dedication. I wish to express my gratitude to Dr. Piyush Ranjan, Registrar of the University, for their guidance and support and for providing encouragement at every point of time in the organization of any program. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the resource person, Professor Anirudh Ghosh, for imparting such an informative knowledge about how to write and publish a paper in good journal. My heartfelt thanks to all members of Indian Academician and Researcher Association, especially to Dr. Tajin ma'am and Akhtar Alam sir. And I would also like to thank Arvind Kumar for his technical support. And finally, the most important is the participant. So I would like to thank the entire participant for their enthusiastic participation in this online faculty development program. So thank you all. Once again, thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope you all had a great session today. And I hope that you all promise that all of us are going to write some quality research paper now. Unless and until we actually start driving the car, we won't be an expert in driving the car, right? So with this promise that we will definitely go and write some good quality research paper, and definitely looking for more interactive sessions in the future too. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you, audience. Thank you all for being such a lovely participants. Hope you all take care, stay safe, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.